All right, hi everybody. Welcome to MandoLessons Live, episode 71. Hope you're all doing well. My name is Baron Collins Hill, and I look forward to hanging out with you all for the next hour. Let me know how it looks, how it sounds, all that sort of stuff. I'm using a new program. Hope it all works out well, but let me know if anything seems off, and I'll do my best to fix it. That was a tune called Batchelder's Reel. Batchelder was a musical family in Maine in the 1700s, and that was a tune from their family repertoire, and in the key of F. Very fun tune. All right, we got all kinds of folks in the chat. Good to see. We got Dan, Sheldon, Lewis, Woody, Eldon, Robert, Jeffrey, and Angie. Good to have you all here from all over the world. We got Indiana, Santa Monica, Israel, Massachusetts, Costa Rica, West Virginia. Cool. Jason says it's looking great. Glad to hear it. So, if you're new here and haven't been to one of these before, it's pretty chill. You can always ask questions. I love hearing what people are working on. No question is too simple or too advanced or anything like that. And yeah, we'll just have a fun time. And I'm happy to take requests as long as they are not copyright restricted. So a lot of covers are off. All covers are off limits, unfortunately. But yeah. Jason has a great question already that I'll get into. Let's see who else we got. Shari from Indianapolis. From China, great. Good to have you here. Welcome. Jason has a question right off the bat. Says, you don't use your thumb, do you? I don't, unless it's kind of like a trick. There's occasionally something I'll do with my thumb that I kind of actually will occasionally do in kind of chopping situations where I'm doing this kind of G chop chord, where I'll use my thumb to sort of create a bass line. So we've got the 7th fret with our pinky, and then 4th fret with our thumb, and then open. So I'll do that kind of thing. You do it in D. But that's kind of it's a little bit of a gag. It's kind of a joke, but it also, it does create some interesting sounds, and it's not off limits. It's not normal technique to do that. I wouldn't recommend. I'm not going to sit somebody down for their first mandolin lesson and be like, here's how you use your thumb, because that's not what it's all about. But if you've been playing for a while and you know how not to hurt yourself, and you can easily stretch things too much with your thumbs. This is something you can try out. Occasionally I'll see Mike Marshall use his thumb. But yeah, it's worth checking out and playing around with. I haven't found too much use for the thumb though. It's a great question though. Do I know the tune Brilliancy? Barely. I could try to play it. Alright, let's see. Key of A. I think this is a traditional tune. Sam Bush did a version of it. I'm not sure. I'll try to play a little of it. And I'll have to look back and see if the YouTube algorithm slaps my wrist about it and tries to put ads on this video. But, whoa, let's try that again. Yeah, it's too early in the morning here. Here's a little bit of Brilliancy. Not the cleanest thing in the world. Sam Bush does it much better. But that'll be a good test for the see if YouTube knows if that's a traditional tune or not. All right, hi from Sweden. Good to have you here. Ant-Man says that's barely playing it. It is a notey tune. It sounds impressive even when a lot of notes are flubbed. I definitely hit a lot of wrong notes in there and just couldn't get one of those parts down quite right. But I do know most of it. I used to know it a lot better. I just haven't played it a lot lately. But I appreciate the kind words. Thank you, Uncle Bobby, for the super chat. Really helps me make these live streams happen and pay for the software that runs them and keeps new lessons coming out on the website every week. So always appreciated, no matter how the donation comes in, whether it's super chat or there's links in the description to PayPal, or you can become Patreon supporters and get access to some perks. You can also, let me get this in the other screen here. I now have some merch. I've got these nice mandolin mugs. Link in the description to the merch. I've also got t-shirts, all that kind of stuff. Always fun. So thank you, Uncle Bobby, keeping the channel going. Hey, Richard from Albany, Oregon, right down the road. Learning Tennessee Stud this week. That's a great song. Eldon says, I see you have other mandolins on your wall. Why do you always play the same instrument? Great question. In general, I only have 2 mandolins, and then a bunch of other. So I'll get the other mandolin. It's right up there. So this is the only other mandolin I own. And it's just a different sound. And probably, I don't know how in tune it is right now. Ooh, too out of tune. I'll tune it up a little bit though. So this is an old mandolin from the 1920s. It's almost 100 years old now, made by Gibson. Kind of one of their budget models back in the day. This is quite out of tune. I'm in Oregon, and I think maybe the dryness of the fires we had a couple of weeks ago, forest fires, wildfires, climate fires, whatever you like to call them, combined with then it's rained for a couple of days, so all the instruments are extra out of tune. So it's almost a half step sharp. But yeah, the difference between instruments, I mostly gravitate towards instruments that sound fairly different if I'm gonna have duplicates. All right, Lars from Sweden as well. Lots of folks from Sweden in the chat. So yeah, this is the big difference with this instrument, also an A style like the other one. The big difference is this oval sound hole versus the F style holes on the Ellis that I play. So it sounds a little like this. So there's the Gibson. And I also use a different pick, but I'll just use this pick for a second again. It's kind of like a 1mm guitar shaped pick on the Gibson versus 1.5mm big triangle on the Ellis. But here's the Ellis. Same 1mm pick. That's much better. And Uncle Bobby says, do you use different gauge strings on the different instruments? I do. So I use heavy gauge, or medium heavy, D'Addario EJ75s on my Ellis. And on the Gibson, I think I use either 73s, which is their light gauge, or 74s, which is their like true medium gauge. You don't want to put really heavy strings on really old instruments because they weren't, like, strings have gotten heavier in gauge over the years, and now instruments are built to hold up those old, those heavier gauge strings. But older instruments, especially with like guitars, you know, a lot of guitars were made for nylon strings or gut strings. And then there was the advent in the 20s of switching over to steel strings. Same with like old banjos. Steel strings weren't really a thing for a long time. And then when they came along, this tension was much higher. So in general, you want lighter gauge strings on older instruments. I don't know that there were any mandolins that were ever made with gut strings, but that would be interesting to know. Let's see. Lesson on Brilliancy. I'll have to look into that again. You know, that's kind of in Sam Bush's wheelhouse. Anyway, folk music puns. Well, yeah, I'll look into it anyway. It's not really my area of expertise. I think there's actually a DVD where Sam Bush teaches it, maybe? I don't know. I know Sam Bush has some homespun records that are excellent. I mean, homespun DVDs and stuff. Let's see. Catch up with the chat here. Soldier's Joy, I can definitely do that. And Jimmy Lynn says, can you play a classic tune? I think this is a classic tune, unless you mean classical, which I don't really do. I'm not a classical musician, I'm more of a folk musician. So here's a little Soldier's Joy. Ooh, if I can remember how it starts. Is this it? I think this is it. Oh no, this is St. Ansriel. Where is it? It's in there somewhere. Soldier's Joy. There it is. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no. Too many old-time D-tunes in my head. I can't remember the B part. I'm gonna cheat and look it up, because now I really want to know how it goes. Whenever I need to remember how a tune goes, I always just go to my website, MandoLessons.com, and search for it there. Man, I don't often forget the B part of a tune, but it happens. Everybody forgets tunes. Alright, 3 seconds here. Sheet music. Oh yeah. All right, there we go. Little soldier's joy. That was like a double backfire there, but there we have it. All right, let's see. All right, yeah, people found out before me I was saying it's real. Not surprised. Yeah, no, I've seen there's, I don't know if I've seen anybody never mix up a tune. There's too many tunes, and a lot of them sound the same. It's one of the easiest thing to do is mix it up. Awesome. We have good information from Richard, who says Brilliancy is on the Homespun Sam Bush Bluegrass instruction videos. So if you want to learn Brilliancy, learn it from the master, learn it from Sam Bush, find that Homespun Sam Bush Bluegrass mandolin instruction. I know he's got a couple. They're all great. He's got one called All About Rhythm, one all about lead, and then an older one called like Bluegrass Instruction. And the Bluegrass Instruction is the one that he's got Brilliancy on. I'm pretty sure it comes with the tablature. If not, you can find the tablature online. I think it's on the Mandolin Cafe website. Yeah, but all that homespun stuff is so good. We are blessed with all kinds of great mandolin information these days. Cool. Well, I think I'm about all caught up with the chat here. So if I missed your question at any point, just shoot it in again. I'm looking at a new chat screen, which has its pros and has its cons. I don't think I can... No. I used to be able to make the chat screen a little bigger so I could read it from farther away, but this chat doesn't seem to be doing the thing where it jumps. Usually I would like go back to read a question and then it would shoot back down to the bottom and I had to find where I was again. Jimmy has a good question. Do you read tabs or notes? I think in order of comfort, the first way I like to learn is by ear. Then probably I'm a little more comfortable with tablature. I'm not proud of that because I'm not a huge fan of tablature necessarily. It has its place. But then third would be standard notation. But I started out by learning by ear and reading tablature. And tablature is great. You know, it's very kind of one-to-one. You know, you see a 2 on the piece of paper and you put a finger on the second fret. It really is kind of straight ahead that way, and it's a little more kind of visually connected to the instrument. The problem is, if you learn from tab, and that's what you get comfortable with, like I did, it makes reading music a little harder because it's not as visual, and it's a more restricted form of music learning because if you get, you know, you can't give your mandolin tablature to another person and say, hey, let's play this. Whereas with standard notation, if you can read it and somebody else can read it, you can both work off the same piece of music, which is very helpful. And there's a lot more standard notation out there than there is mandolin tablature. There's a lot of mandolin tablature, which is great. But if you learn by ear, you don't need paper at all. So that's my vote for learning stuff by ear. Temperance Reel. Oh, I can't remember how that one goes. I've never been great at starting that tune, and I probably don't play a very correct version of it once I do get it started. Ted has spotted the harmonium in the background. Let's see, where is it? Yep, right there. I just got that on Craigslist for 25 bucks. It's kind of broken, but I'm going to fix it up. It's also a little sharp. That's the thing with harmoniums. A lot of them are like sharp of A, so like if you tune your A to 440, or like to a tuner, the A on the harmonium is going to be sharper than that. So everybody has to tune to the harmonium because you can't tune a reed instrument in the same way. What's one instrument you've always wanted to learn but never had the opportunity to? Oh, there's so many. I would love to play the clarinet. I love the sound of the clarinet. That's the only one that I like. Well, not the only one. I would love to play the fiddle. I worked on playing the fiddle for a little bit. It just didn't really agree with me. It kind of like hurt my joints to do the angles and stuff, and just kind of didn't really sit well with me. But I would love to be a great fiddle player. But fiddle it's got a steep learning curve, I'll say. And I get to play with a lot of great fiddle players, so I get to hear a lot of great fiddling. And I think that at this point that satisfies my fiddle urge. maybe someday I'll get back to trying to play a little fiddle. Let's see. Cool, Kevin. Good to have you here from Virginia. Do you know the Irish tune "The Millers of Glanmire" and "Kitty's Wedding"? I don't know "Humors of Glanmire" or "Miller of Glanmire" off the top of my head. It doesn't sound familiar to me, but sometimes I hear an Irish tune, I'm like, oh, I know that, but I just don't know the name. "Kitty's Wedding," I know it. I don't know how to start it. It's been a really long time since I've played it. Sorry, I can't throw either of those out for you. "Kitty's Wedding" is a beautiful tune. I remember that much. Maybe I'll try to make a lesson for it on my website. Juiced says, how do you amplify your mandolin on a stage? In general, what I do is I have a little clip-on gooseneck mic that I attach. Let's zoom into this one. I put the neck of I put the little clamp here and shoot it's got a little gooseneck, so my finger would be that, and it just points a mic right at the soundboard, and then that goes to either a belt pack or just like a cable out that goes to the mixer. That's my preferred way. It really, how you want to amplify can really depend on a lot of variables. In the situations I'm playing in, they're often in smaller combinations, so I can get away with a microphone. Whereas if you're playing with like a big horn section and a bunch of drums, that microphone might pick up a lot of that other sound and create feedback. Or if you're playing in a bluegrass band and you want to be able to like move in and away from the mic a little more dynamically, then you're going to want a mic on a stand. Because when it's attached to the instrument, you can't get closer and further away. Let's see, how do you amplify your mandolin on stage? Hope that helps. What's the best way to start understanding to learn by ear? Oh, and thank you, Jason. You turned that into a super chat. So yeah, learning by ear. I think the best way to do it, I think ultimately is like, if you're a mandolin player, is go through my website. It's all free. I teach all these lessons, of all these tunes by ear. And I think, finding a way to, it's a very cumulative process. So the more you work at learning by ear, the first tune you learn by ear is going to be a little bit of a slog, and you're really going to it's not going to be the most natural, easiest thing you've ever done. But as you play more and learn your next tune by ear, it's a little bit easier and a little bit easier. So on my website in the beginner series, I teach the tune Cindy. And it really can, it can really help to have a tune or a song that has words. So Cindy's got words. First time I saw Cindy standing in the door, shoes and stockings in her hand, little feet on the floor. Or a tune that a lot of people start with is "You Are My Sunshine." I would totally use that, but it's a copyrighted song. Because everybody knows how "You Are My Sunshine" goes, and there's kind of two steps to getting to play by ear. You have to get the song and the melody and the information from an outside source, whether it's someone teaching you or you're listening to a recording, into your head. And then from your head, you need the skills to kind of translate that into your fingers and create that sound coming back out. And with "You Are My Sunshine," everybody already knows the melody for the most part. And so that first step has happened, and you can work from there. So if you take the first couple notes of "You Are My Sunshine," I'll give you those, and hopefully I think that'll be enough, because it's pretty much just part of a scale. D, G, A, B, starting on the open D string. And from there, most people, if they know the tune, "You Are My Sunshine," can just work out the rest of the tune. So that's a great exercise right there. And it makes you think, you get to some of the basics, like how long is the note? Am I hitting the right note? Is the next note higher or lower? That next one goes, ah. you can sing the song, ba 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 ba, and then match that with your instrument. That's kind of the basics on like learning by ear. And then the biggest thing you can do from there is really just do it a lot. You know, go to my website. I've got hundreds of tunes that I teach by ear, little phrase by phrase. And as you learn tunes, you'll start to kind of figure out how the phrases work, where you have A, B, B with a fiddle tune most of the time. And then there's repetition within that. And really kind of learning in that way. Like, okay, here's the first phrase, here's the second phrase, and the third phrase is actually the same as the first. You get that repeat information. I've actually learned a lot about learning by ear from teaching tunes because it makes me break them down into bite-sized pieces. I hope that helps. Did you ever look into the battle for Hadrian's Wall? I did not. I don't know that tune. I'll have to look into it. But I didn't. Have you asked that before? I didn't last time, but I appreciate the reminder. Thank you, Chip. Yeah, so he says, just hope you're well and seeing cleaner air. Yeah, the weather's been beautiful. I'm in Western Oregon, and we had tons of wildfire smoke for like 2 weeks and didn't leave the house for 10 days, and nobody could breathe, and it was the worst air quality in the world in my city at that time because of all the smoke. And then a tree fell on my house and on my car. And both survived. The house needs a little bit of roof work, but it's pretty minimal, all things said. And the car came away. The tree easily could have totaled the car, but it just put a couple small dents in the roof and scratched it all up. So I'm thankful for that. And everybody around here that I know is safe and healthy. And the smoke is gone, and it's been a beautiful couple days. And now we got some much needed rain. Supposed to be beautiful next week. Everything's looking up, but I appreciate the thoughts, Chip. How about accordion? I play a little bit of accordion. I play a button accordion, so it's got buttons on both sides, and it works a little bit like a harmonica, where if you push a button in one and squeeze the bellows, you get one note, and you can push the same button and pull on the bellows, and you get a different note. I play that kind of accordion. There's a couple of those kinds if you get deep into accordion knowledge, but I'll leave it at that. And piano accordion, I don't play, but I actually have a piano accordion that I want to learn how to play. So that's definitely on my list. The accordion isn't with me right now. It's getting fixed up by a friend, but soon enough, I'm going to have access to that and have a whole new project. Cool, Randy, good to have you here from Ontario. Cool. Juice says I've got a gig in 7 days. I think that's for the microphone question. Angie says, I know you play clawhammer banjo, but have you ever tried to play 3-finger Scruggs style? I have not. I would like to. It's not like top of my list because I don't play that much bluegrass anymore. But I would love to play like 2-finger old time 2-finger style and some old time 3-finger style and Scruggs style, just because they're kind of all a little bit related. That's definitely on my list of instruments to learn is some more kind of 2- and 3-finger style banjo. Diego says, any tips for recording mandolin at home? Great content as always. Thank you very much, Diego. Good to hear from you. Recording at home, I think the biggest thing I've learned is it's just a lot of kind of troubleshooting and making a bunch of mistakes. There's everything from the technical aspect of what kind of mic do you want to use? How close do you get to the mic? How does that affect the sound? And then are you going to put are you going to EQ the sound in your computer once it's in your computer? That's all kind of technical stuff. And I'm not an expert at that sort of thing, but I think any decent cheap mic is going to be fine. You can get mics on Amazon or anywhere on the internet for like $50. Do a little bit of research. You can ask on the Mandolin Cafe for gear recommendations with your budget. And there's that sort of side of, I think in general getting closer to the mic is better. It picks up more detail and you get a little kind of fuller sound, but it can also depend on the mic. Like right now I'll try to get this in this, I can't. get this in the screen. But I've got a mic up here and a mic down here that are farther away, but they're meant to be farther away and pick up a narrow shot, so I can actually be sitting here and looking like there's no mics, but I'm actually surrounded by mics. And then from there, I think the biggest thing with recording is getting used to the fact that you know you're being recorded. It can be very disorienting and like a little uncomfortable to be like, okay, I got to do this right because it's a recording, and I don't want to mess up, and that feeling is going to make you mess up. So just spending a lot of time recording yourself will make you better at recording yourself. And it won't be perfect the first time, but the more you do it, the better you get at it, just like anything else. Hope that's helpful. But yeah, in terms of like gear recommendation, I would ask on Mandolin Cafe. In general, you can't go wrong with like a Shure SM57 classic microphone used for all kinds of things. They're about $100 online, and then you would need some way to get that microphone through an XLR cable into your computer, which will often you can get a little audio interface that goes from XLR into USB into your computer. But there are also cheaper options. I know I've had like SM57 knockoffs that are like $30 from eBay that sound fine. Start with whatever you have, and don't feel like you need to upgrade until you're really like missing something or noticing something, rather than being like, I know this $1,000 microphone is better, so I'm going to get it just because. It's a dangerous trap to fall into, but we're all sometimes a little likely to do so. Okay, have you ever watched Northfield Archtop Octave Mandolin Mike Marshall videos? I have. Those are great. I don't remember the song that he plays, but it's great. Yeah, those Northfields are awesome. Mike Marshall is awesome. Cool. Dan Parso says, enjoy picking with the play-alongs. Cool, I'm glad you enjoy this. I always love making those. And they're especially fun. I often use them if I'm like working on a different instrument like banjo. I'll play along with those. That's a great thing you can do yourself too, like that'll make you a better musician, to just like try to emulate what I do in those play-along jams, and like see if you can record yourself playing the melody and then switching seamlessly to chords back to melody like I do with those play-alongs, and then you can then play along with yourself, and you got a little jam going. And it's a really good exercise, and it'll make you a better mandolin player. Yep, everything's fine. Thank you, Sawyer. Danny says, by ear's the only way I can play. I like the way you break down the songs. Cool, appreciate it. Yep, Jason, we did have the same smoke. Cool, Uncle Bobby's on Cajun style accordion. That is a really beautiful sound. I love Cajun accordion, and someday I would like to learn how to play some Cajun accordion. Charlie's March. Ooh, there's a great request. Sure, I'll play a little. I've been talking a lot. I'll play Charlie's March, which is a beautiful Scottish tune that I learned at a main fiddle camp that I teach at every year. From a good friend of mine, Issa Burke, who got it from Lissa Schneckenberger, who is a great Maine-Vermont fiddler, and she got it from Chris Wood and Andy Cutting, who are a great English duo. I don't know where they got it, but they play it in F. So that sort of lineage came back, so I play it in F. I don't think it was originally in F as like a traditional Scottish tune, but that's the way a lot of modern players play it now, and it sounds like this. Where is it? It's been a while. It's a little crooked too. Here's the A part. That's all right. 1, 2, 3, 4. A2. B. B2. One more. There we go, a little bit of Charlie's March. Haven't played that in a while. It's a great tune. Andrew says, have you done whiskey before breakfast, simple to complex? That's a good question. Somebody might know quicker than I could look it up, but you can look if you go to my website and MandoLessons.com, search whiskey before breakfast. You'll see all the lessons I've done on whiskey before breakfast. I think I have, but I'm not sure. Ant-Man says, have you ever used alternative mandolin tunings? I have. I love alternate tunings. My favorite tuning probably is G, D, A, D. So take your E string down to D. It's a very drony sound. That's what I do with all those tenor guitars back there and bazookies. 4-string instruments that I play. G, D, A, D. It's a great sound for accompaniment. I have a lesson on my website on alternative tunings. Where I go through probably half dozen or a dozen of them. Check that out. There's a lot of fun stuff in there to try. Sheldon says, I learned how to play 3-finger in 74 when I bought my first instrument. Not hard to forget. Yeah, that's the thing with a lot of that, like it's kind of complicated. I have the same feeling with a button accordion. It's like technically kind of strange because the notes are different in every direction and there's a lot going on and a lot of same thing with like 3-finger. It like from the outside in looking at it, it's like, whoa, how do you remember how to do all that stuff? But it's so much muscle memory that once you get it, you just don't forget it. It just stays with you. I can not pick up the button accordion for a year, pick it up and not have forgotten everything. I definitely need to practice to kind of get back up to speed, but I'm always surprised at how much sticks with me. All right, Alex says, what do you think about focusing on learning one key at a time? I'm a fan of that. Especially with... I'm going to drink some coffee and think about this. I think it's a great thing to do. You don't want to like limit yourself in a way that makes it not fun to play. Like, oh, I'm so tired of playing in the key of D. But when you learn a couple tunes in the key of D, you're working on all the same problems. You're working with the same scale. When double stops come up, they're going to be the same exact double stop. You're kind of really getting used to that language. And I think it's a quicker musical path to work on one key than to like not know any keys and be like, okay, I'm going to learn all 12 all at the same time. That's not going to help you. It's going to be frustrating. It's not going to be very musical because you probably won't be learning tunes in all 12 keys. You'll just be working on scales, and scales don't sound as good as tunes. So I think, getting a bunch of tunes in D, get a bunch of tunes in G, a bunch of tunes in A, and those are kind of the big three that you'll run into. And then, a couple minor keys, E minor, B minor, A minor, C major is a great. And then, you know, you could, with a half dozen keys rather than 24 if you count kind of minor variations of keys. Rather than learning 24 keys and not really knowing any tunes, you can learn, you know, a half dozen keys and have 95% of the tunes you're going to be playing in any given style. So I think that's a great way to do it, is kind of focus on one key or, you know, a smaller number of keys, and really that'll help you learn a lot of those tunes and get musical quicker than learning the technical aspects of playing all those different keys and all those different scales, but not having any tunes to play in them. To play them in. Tunes to play in them, yes. Okay, let's see. Behringer, yep, makes some audio equipment that can get XLRs, and they make everything. They make microphones, they make mixers, they make audio interfaces. Any tip on strumming with picks? I keep not hitting all the strings while strumming. I think with that, it's a big part of it is just playing slow enough to, just by telling me, like by saying that you know you're not hitting all the strings, that shows an awareness that you know what's happening, which is the first step in kind of troubleshooting any of those problems. And a lot of that kind of mechanical stuff, just the more you play nice and slow, put as much attention on that kind of strumming hand as possible, you know, like, see if you don't worry too much about all the fancy left hand stuff you should be doing, and just work on the right hand and like make sure you're hitting all the strings you want to be hitting at any given time. And then beyond that, the biggest thing you can do is just kind of work at it a little bit every day and let kind of the long trail of time help kind of make you more proficient at doing what you want to be doing with strumming. It all kind of works itself out as the more you play. Cool. Edward says, just started learning mandolin at 61. Love the site. Cool. Proud to support you on Patreon. Well, I appreciate the support, Edward, and everybody who supports me, whether it's Patreon or PayPal or buys a t-shirt or does super chats here on the live streams. I appreciate it all. Really helps me, you know, put out new lessons every week and do these live streams and keep the website up and running. You know, it's free for a reason, so don't feel obligated at any point to feel like you have to support the channel in any way. But, you know, just watching is, if you're enjoying it, support is appreciated. But, you know, even if you're just not in a place where you can donate, that's totally fine. Just play more music, and that makes me happy. Cool, lots of folks working on. Here, a little poll for the chat. Just type how many years, or yeah, just type how long you've been playing mandolin. I'm curious to know. Uncle Bobby says, I noticed your left thumb draped over the G string. Is that just a habit of you muting the string? Yeah, so I do. I often will do that. I will get it out of the way as need be. It's not a great habit. You know, I think if I was technically perfect, I would just, my thumb would be out of the way of that string. But I don't know. I don't really think about it too much. There's probably times when I am muting the string. It's hard to say. I've never really thought about it too much. Cool. Lewis says that whiskey, simple to complex, and play along jams are there. Jeffrey says, tips on improvisation. If I learn a lick in G, can I use it in D or C? It's hard for me to go from the scale to a full solo. Yeah, so what you can do there, you know, at first it's kind of slow going. Take your improvisation or your solo or your lick or whatever it may be. Maybe it's something kind of bluegrassy and short like that. And say, okay, I'm going to kind of dive into this and think about it. It's a little lick in the key of G. I can't do it the same way twice because I just made it up. But that's the general idea. And you think, okay, like how does it start? It starts on a G, which is the note that the key, like it's the note of the key. So if I need to play it in D, so we're going G to D, and so we need that same relationship in the key of D, so it's going to be D to A. And then we have this little, which is a flat 3 to a 3, or a B flat to B, G, in the key of G. So we need that flat 3, which is F to F natural, sorry, F to F sharp, F natural to F sharp, and then ending on the note of the key. So becomes, and then if you want to do it in A, start on A. If you want to do it in B flat, you know, you just gotta, the hardest part for me anyway is to just get that those first couple notes and then let your kind of ear guide you from there. And if you're going, and they're like, well, that doesn't sound right, I must be doing something wrong. I know I'm starting with the right note. No, that doesn't quite. You know, get that those first couple notes kind of technically by saying, okay, it starts on a G in the key I know it, and I'm going to a different key. I'm starting in G, starting with a G note. So if I'm starting in D, if I'm playing in D, I got to start with a D note. That's sort of where my brain goes to start, and then I use my ear from there. Is it unwise to play a mandocello or octave mandolin like a standard mandolin? The extra sustain dominates the sound, doesn't it? Yeah, it is a different sound. I don't know if I would go to say it's unwise. I think, you know, playing any new instrument, if you're a mandolin player and picking up octave mandolin or mandocello, you're going to find things that work. So it sounds like for you, you know, you notice that sustain really can kind of change the sound a little bit. So when you pick up a new instrument, I think it's really, it's wise at first to say, okay, this is a new instrument to me, but I can relate it to an instrument I already play, in this example, mandolin, and to say, okay, I've got an octave mandolin. I can do a lot of what I do on mandolin with the octave mandolin. It's going to sound a little different. There's going to be physical barriers, like, you know, you can't play a big G chop chord on an octave mandolin because the scale length is larger. So you have to adjust fingering and adjust kind of chord shapes and other variables like that. And then also just listening to the sound, like you said, you know, that sustain can sort of take over the music. So if you're playing in an ensemble and you're, you know, playing octave mandolin as if it's a mandolin, and you say, wow, I'm really just kind of walking all over, filling up too much sound space and walking over my bandmates, that's a great, you know, thing to realize and say, okay, how can I adjust this to, you know, leave a little more space for everybody else? Let's see. Oh, I'm falling behind in the chat. I like it. And I'm running out of time too. All right, I'm going to see if I can breeze. Oh, it's because I asked how long people had been playing. I'm going to breeze through some chat stuff here. Anyone else have trouble with chord strumming? Like I said, working on that right hand exclusively is a great way to do it. There's some lessons on my website in the technique and fundamentals section about strumming techniques. Harmony to Coleman's March. Any ideas? Yeah, 3 notes higher. Yeah, all of that stuff. Kevin, it sounds like you've got the basic idea. Just do it a lot. I've got some Coleman March lessons coming out. Use those. I'm going to do a play-along jam and a simple to complex. Use that time to, you know, play along with me and really just kind of trial and error it. See what sounds good. Use your ears. All that kind of thing. Oh, nice. Alex says do some Travis picking like Mississippi John Hurt. How would mandolin accompany this? You know, I think with that kind of really rhythmic style, mandolin could play a pretty kind of like simple roll a lot of like octaves and fifths, because you know that all of the spice and variety of that music is coming from the rhythmic stuff that's happening with the finger picking. So I would probably accompany on mandolin very simply, you know, a lot of drones, things like that. Cool. So yeah, people are saying they have trouble with chord strumming. There are lessons, you know, go back through the beginner series. That's a great way to kind of focus back in on individual hands. And then also look at the strumming lessons in the technique and fundamental section of the site. Hey Ashley, good to have you here. So Edward says, what is a super chat? If you're logged in and you have some payment information on YouTube, you can kind of do a donation through YouTube, and it comes up in a different color. It's also a little easier for me to see those because they come up in a different color and stick out in the chat a lot. Tips for learning all the notes on the fretboard. Do you go one string at a time, or are there certain patterns or tricks that help you quickly know a particular note besides just memorizing? I would go to jazzmando.com, all one word. There's a lot of kind of fretboard mapping information over there. All right, so here's the fun part where I said, how long have people been playing? 1 year, 4 years, 2 years, January, 1 week. Awesome, 10 years. First mandolin in 1979. Lewis has got the record so far. 2 years in January, 4 years, 1 year, 3 months, 15 years for Sheldon. All right. 58 years on the guitar for Dan. 2 months, 3 years, less than a year, 4 years. Have you ever tuned your mandolin to 432? I have. Or what I often do more than that is just tune down a whole step. It's just a little mellower. It's a nice sound. 2 years and started at 6. A few years when I was younger. Taco Mando says, with your right hand, you throw in a great triplet as ornamentation in Celtic tunes. I know you've discussed it in lessons. Can you break it down some here? Because I'm running out of time, I would recommend, again, in the technique and fundamental section, it's going to be under the right hand heading. I talk in depth about that triplet stuff. All right, let's see. Pick up something every time. Cool. Quick Scoper said, just got a mandolin for your birthday. Congratulations. Happy birthday. Oh, started at 60. Okay, nice. I was going to say, oh, Bobby, you're 2 years, but started at 6. That's a interesting feat. 20 years for Kevin. 1 month, 2 weeks. Craigslist 2018. Cool. I'm glad everybody... It seems like I'd say the majority of folks are under 5 years. That's good to know. Well, it's about time to sign off here, but I really appreciate you all for coming and hanging out with me on a Saturday, for me, late morning, but it could be afternoon or middle of the night for you. It's hard to say from here. It's the power of the internet. Assuming another tree doesn't fall on my house, I'll be doing these every weekend at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time, and hope to see you back again. New lessons every single week. Subscribe if you haven't already. I don't know how you would have found this if you aren't subscribed, but appreciate it, and all have a great weekend.